Niramas. I'm Joseph and I'm here today with Racco, of course. And we are excited. It's time. It's that time of year when we do the top 100 games of all time list. And it's so fun to be back with this. It's a bit of a new format this year. We'll do 20 games in each episode instead of 10. And we're also going to do this live stream, which is going to be a little bit different. Now, I think it's for the, a positive though, because you, in the chat, you will be able to comment and discuss the games that I bring up. And, I think that will add some more life maybe to the list, which will be interesting. And it's also interesting that I just really, when I was thinking about starting this stream here, I was thinking about it's the 5th year that I'm doing this. Now, not exactly like this. The first year, that was 2016, I just started the channel. The channel was all new at this time of year, and I did a top 10 list. And that was like, that felt really cool at that time. And then 2017, I did a top 50 games list. But in 2018, it was the top 100. And 2019, last year, there was also the top 100 list. And there's been some changes, not that, this year has been special, as for not just for me, but for a lot of people, of course. And I haven't played as many games as I normally would do in a year. And a lot of games that I have played have been online, on like Board Game Arena and so on, and Zoom. And I played older games, basically. So I haven't played as many new games. But I still got some new in here. There's some hotness in this list now. Some games have moved down, so they're not in here anymore. Some other games have actually moved up as well. So this has been a resurgence of some games as well that has been maybe just outside the top 100 last year. They might have get a chance to get in here. And what I do these lists is always this deadline before Essen Spiel, right? So this list was made in early October, because I want to have some time to play those new games. A lot of the games in the board gaming hobby comes this time of year. So I want to have time to play those, and then they have like a year basically to see if they could make it into my top 100. So I'm sure there's some games in here that was released last year's Essen Spiel or in the fall or winter. So I think it's time to get going. We're going to start off here with number 100. And I hope that my setup here will work nicely. If there's any issues with the sound or with the stream in any way, let me know in the live chat so I can try to fix it. So let's get started. Number 100 is Wingspan. And Wingspan is it's a game that came out, I don't think it's, maybe it was on the last year's list. I don't remember, to be honest. But it's a very popular game from James Stegmaier's Stonemaier Games, but he's not the designer. It's Elizabeth Hargrave, and this game has gotten so much buzz. It got, I don't know how many prizes it won last year for, best game and best theme and artwork and all that stuff. There was so much praise for this game, which was, rightfully there, and it made my top 100. It is number 100 because there are some flaws in this game when it comes to, I don't know, I think it's too tight. I think that's the downside of it. I mean, I love the look of it and the feel of it and all that, but it's an engine builder where the engine is so tight. You just have these few cards, and there's some luck involved in your starting hand and in the card draw and so on. And there's other engine builders that are higher up on my list. But it's still a good game. Still enjoy it a lot. Wingspan. There has been 2 expansions. One expansion just came out, the Oceanic expansion, and that one looks really interesting. I'm really excited to try that. I haven't played the European birds either, to be honest, but I have seen it played, and I know what it's all about, and I think it's interesting as well. Now, this is one of those games that I would, I prefer to play 2 solo or 2 players. I'm not a big fan of playing this game on 4 or 5. I know some people play this game on 5, and the downtime there, and basically you're not really affecting each other that much in the game. What you do there, we have those pink cards with like powers that trigger when someone else is doing something. But in most cases in this game, you run your own little engine, your own little playboard. So I don't really see the point of sitting around with too many people, because you get sort of the same experience anyway with fewer people. So yeah, but I do like it. Wingspan. And here's my 2-player run through that I did with Draco. I also did 2 solo playthroughs, and I'm planning to do another solo playthrough with those expansions sometime this winter when I get the chance to do it. Next up, we have a game called Xcom. Xcom, the board game, which is, I don't have a gameplay video of this, so this is actually my unboxing of the expansion. I just had to pull something up behind me here. But Xcom is a game that I really loved to PC and to PlayStation. I like the science fiction fighting aliens game, and Xcom always had this. I love the tactical grid combat that is in the PlayStation, the digital game. Now, the board game is not really the same thing. It's more like a overhead perspective where you manage. It's more of a management game. But the really fun thing in this game is that it's a real-time game. And it's very, very stressful. You have a really good app that handles everything. So it's like in phases, so step by step you need to do certain things. You have a few seconds to pull up some cards and choose between bad or even worse, and so on, which is really fun. And I really like to play this game on 4. That's how you should play Xcom, the board game, because then everyone has their own role to keep track of. Someone is keeping track of the economy, someone handles the fighting the UFOs and so on, with the fighters. There's a lot of things going on in this game, and it's all stressful, but then it also tones down, so it has these like stressful, and then the timed phase stops, and then you have time to like roll dice. There's a bit of push your luck in that rolling dice as well, which I think is fun. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on in it, but I like it. It's very hard as well. I don't think I made it more than a few times with friends, but we had a really good time playing this. Last time I played this was at a convention. It must have been last year, and it was late that evening, and everybody was tired, but we had a really good time. And yeah, I can really recommend Xcom, the board game, if you like these kind of timed games and the whole science fiction setting which is in. Alright, so that's 99. Let's keep going here. We are going down to 98. So this is a game that I know has a very mixed reviews. I know not everyone loves this game, but it's Sid Meier's Civilization: A New Dawn. So Sid Meier's Civilization, the board game, is one of my favorites. It's gonna come higher up on the list. But the A New Dawn game tried to sort of streamline Civilization into something more of a 2-hour experience instead of maybe 6 hours that the big game is. And I think this one looks very nice. I like the components, I like the look of the game. I really like the mechanic of the cards. When you have the cards that are, this is an older video, so the focus is a bit weirder. But when you have the cards sort of 1 to 5, and then when you do your 5th card, it's really strong, but then it moves down to the 1 slot, and then everything else shifts up. So there's a lot of planning involved there, and that's a card mechanism that I would like to see in more games. I think that would fit for, a farming game or a Euro game where you're doing these different actions, and they're, the strength of the actions varies. I think there's a lot of ways you could implement that into other board games, and I'm not really sure if it has been done in any other game, or if this is the only one. Oh, hey, Mikael, by the way. So I'm not really sure if this one is the only one doing it, because I think it's a really good game mechanic. I think it should be implemented in more board games. And speaking of the map and the civilization theme in this one, I mean, the civilization theme is not that strong. It feels a little bit generic mechanically, but I still like it. And there's an expansion that just came out. I haven't tried it yet. I haven't picked it up, but that's something I look forward to, because there was an issue, and I think in this game, with the whole sort of goals that you're trying to reach. It's like a race game. You're trying to accomplish certain goals before your opponent is doing the same thing. And I felt at times that it needed an expansion to create more variety in that. I was hesitant at first when this game came out, because I thought it was weird that it didn't have any military troops on the map. It was just like abstracted into control of the map. But I think it actually worked out nicely in the game. So I do like it. It's been a while since I played it, but I was also thinking about, there is a solo variant, a fan-made variant on Board Game Geek. So I have been thinking about trying that one out, because I would like to play this in a solo mode if possible, so I'll do that at some point. So that is Civilization A New Dawn. Then let's continue here. Next up we have a Stefan Feld game. First, but not the last Stefan Feld game on my top 100. This is the Oracle of Delphi. This is a sort of, it's kind of different for being a Stefan Feld game, because this is a racing game. There's no points in this game. And Stefan Feld is mostly sort of known as a point salad designer, right? But in this one, there's no points. It's all about being the first one to complete a certain amount of tasks. And you have your ship you're racing around trying to sort of build temples and do these like Greek hero deeds, right? And be the first one to complete all of them. But there's a lot of strategy involved, because you can plan out your route and in which order you do things. And I really like the player boards in this one. It's a lot of Stefan Feldy in there with the rondelle, and the dice, how you use them reminds you of Castles of Burgundy. And there's a lot of like, there's so many good things in this game, like mechanically. Here we have the player board with like, you use the dice in different ways, which is interesting. And then you also have like special powers that you charge up. So you have these different god favors, but you need to charge those up in order to use them, and then you need to use them at a certain time. So yeah, there's a lot of good things going on in this game, Oracle of Delphi from Stefan Feld. Again, been a while since I played this one. I don't think I can play this solo. I don't think there's a solo variant for it, but I do want to play it soon again. So let's keep going here. I will keep steady pace here since there is 20 games to talk about. So next up is Hadara. Hadara is in some ways a Seven Wonders killer for me. Well, it's not true actually, because I have Seven Wonders higher up on the list. But I do like, I mean, it's doing sort of the same thing that Seven Wonders is doing, but in another format. And I think the only reason that this one has gone down for me, it was higher up on the list 2019. The only reason it's gone down is because I don't own the game. I don't know anyone that owns the game. I don't even remember. I think I borrowed the game for this playthrough that I did. So I played it a few times, but then it's sort of, I think I played it a bunch of times at DracoCon last year. So that's a little bit more than a year ago. And we had a really good time with it. But yeah, basically I should tell you what the game is about. It's basically like Seven Wonders, if you know that game. You're drafting cards and you're getting sort of increases. It's very streamlined. So you have like these markers indicating how much you have of culture and food and economics and so on. And that will let you get new cards that get you more points and so on. So you're buying new cards, you're building this tableau. Everything looks really nice. I really like how everything is structured. You can like conquer these. There's this fun little mini game in this, because if you build up your military power, you can either conquer a province or you can trade with them, and depending on how you do it, you will get different kinds of benefits. So there's a lot of fun stuff going on here. And I like the drafting as well, where you sort of draft from a display, and then you draw two cards and you choose one to activate. You can sell it or you can build it and so on. The one that you don't choose, that one goes into a discard pile, but that can be drafted later on. So there's some strategy involved there. Maybe you want to discard a card that is good because you're thinking that you might be able to pick it up later on when you have like more money or so on, so that you can pick it up. So yeah, Hadara is really good, and I think this one sort of flown a little bit under the radar. I don't think it got the buzz that it deserved. So if you haven't already, check out Hadara. Then let's move on to Chronicles of Crime, and this is a crime solving puzzle game sort of. And what really made an impression on me is that, as you can see here, you're using your phone with basically a QR scanner to scan the QR codes. All the cards in the game have QR codes on them, and so if you can like talk to someone about an item. So like if there's a car, you can scan the car, and then you can scan like the forensic scientist, and he will like tell you what he found in the car. So everything, the app is handling all that, and it's so nice how the app can so the story can evolve as you play because the app keeps track of everything. So people will move around. You might, there's different locations. You might be at a location, you talk to someone. Later on, they're not going to be in that location anymore because they moved, and the app, tells you that. So, and then you have a sort of everything you do takes up a little bit of time, and when you think you have the solution, you can try to puzzle it out, and then, depending on how fast you did it, not fast as in real time, but fast like in game time, then you will get a score. And was just released I don't remember the name now, but a Chronicles of Crime. It's like 16th century something, 17th century, which looks really cool as well, where it's like an historical theme. And I do want to play that one as well. And I am actually about to get a copy. I had a copy of this from SN Spiel 2018, I think. I did the playthrough here, a live stream, and now I'm actually getting a copy from SPD Nordics, a Swedish copy of this. So I will do a Swedish video as well. I don't usually do Swedish or like speak Swedish on my channel, right? But I will do that for this one. So I'll be back with some coverage for Chronicles of Crime here soon as well. And I really like it. It's so good, and I want to play it more. There's like you can buy scenarios in the app, so you can get more and more. So I look forward to a reason to get back to this one actually. Okay, next up is a game that I haven't filmed, so you're gonna have to just take a look at the Board Game Geek page here. And so it's called Newton. It is a sort of Euro style game with, well, it's Newton. I really like the theme in this because it's all about science basically, and like historical science, scientific discoveries, development. And you have this, the game is divided into a few different parts. So you have like the map out here where you can move between different cities and so on in Europe, and you're discovering things, you're visiting universities and so on. And then you have like a tech tree basically down here where you're sort of advancing in a certain type of technology or study. And then you also have what really drives the game is like a card mechanic that is interesting. So you have certain actions that you can do. You have like a hand of cards, and each card has an action on it. But then you play them down, and then at the end of each round, one of those cards, you will have to put them like below your player board. Let's see if I can find a good picture of that here. Maybe I should have checked this up ahead, but I didn't. It's a lot of pictures of the actual board. Let's see if we can find the player board. Come on, is there a picture of the player board? Well, sort of here. Okay, so there's like these, you slide the cards in under your player board. So you get more of the same of the symbols, so that later on you can activate, like if you activate an action, then you get to do the action but in a stronger way because you already have those symbols out. So it's like an engine builder at the same time, which is really interesting. I really like this card system. And you actually start with a basic hand of cards, but then you one of the actions is to buy more cards into your hand so that you get stronger actions of the same type. Reminds me a little bit of Concordia, which is another game I like that is coming later on the list as well. So Newton is really cool. I really like it. Then we go on here with The Mind. The Mind is a small card game. Now this video here that I did with Draco was just basically like demonstrating how the game works, because it's kind of hard to play this way, and especially hard to play with Draco because you can't really read Draco's mind. It's really, really tough to do. So in The Mind, you are trying to read your fellow players' minds, because it's a cooperative game. You're playing together. All you have really is a deck of cards from 1 to 100. Oh, here we have some zooming going on Draco there. Yeah, what you do in the game is you draw a few cards, then you're trying to play the cards in like ascending order, but you can't talk during the game. So this is one of those games that is kind of weird when you sit around a table playing this with your friends, and you're not talking to anyone, but it's still exciting because you're still like trying to. I mean, it's a lot of it's like it's a lot of well, not mind reading, but like trying to put yourself into other people's head, and like, okay, so how would they do a certain thing? And there, after you play this a while with the same group, it develops sort of a meta, a way that you know sort of that, okay, if it takes this and that long, or if someone is sitting back looking uninterested, then they probably don't have a card that is about to be played soon. So you start getting these kind of weird group things going on in this game, which I think is really fun. I like that. It reminds me of other games, like social deduction games or and so on. But here it's like a cooperative deduction. So yeah, the mind is really cool. I can really recommend it. Then we move on to a sort of, by now I would say, classic Euro style game. Stefan Feld again, Trajan. Trajan is a point salad. It really is. So you can do a bunch of different things, and most of the things will get you points. You can get points by like conquering territory. Basically, you can build on the city of Rome. You can work your way up in the Senate and get benefits from that. And the whole thing that drives this game and what makes it really fun, what makes me really like it, is the player boards where you have like a Mancala system. So you pick up these little color tokens, you move them around, and depending on where you drop them off and where you land, you get to do different actions, as you can see here. And so you have these like 6 bowls, and you have these tokens in them. And you're trying to set it up in a way so that you're not just doing a good action right now, but on your next turn you can do another good action because you're planning ahead all the time, which is really fun. Really, really fun. Okay, hey, JB doesn't like XCOM. Yeah, I can see that. I think it's fun though. But yeah, and then in Trajan, I also like how you have these so many options. So there's a lot of different strategies to go for. You have these cards, and you have shipping actions. You can sell different goods by selling your cards, basically. And you're building up. And every year there's going to be some demands from the people. So they might need they want bread, or they want gladiator games, and so on, and or religious rights. And you need to satisfy that. Otherwise, you will lose points at the end of the year. So that is such a good game. And as I'm showing here now, depending on the number of players, you also have like a time track. So it balances really well, depending. It like scales very well, no matter how many players you're playing. So really enjoy Trajan. It has gone down on my list, and again, it's probably just because I haven't played it in a while. There's so many good games, and there's new games coming, and there's new games on this list as well. Next up, we have Gizmos. Gizmos is a small, well, sort of small game. Very simple to get into, but there's a lot of interesting things going on in this game. It's like a combo. This is what I call combo wombo game. It's an engine building game, and you have these marbles, or these plastic marbles in different colors, and they come from this holder thingy that you just have all the marbles in there, and they fall out in a certain order randomly. So that's cool as well. I like gimmicks in games, and I like that gimmick. And you build up like your engine, and you can get some crazy combinations going here. So like if you do an action, you do different actions, and like if you do an action to grab a cube from the tower, and you like, if you get a red cube, or not a cube, a marble, then that will trigger you to be able to take another one, and then you might get a blue one, and if you get a blue one, then you will get some points. So there's a lot of this going on in this game. Like one thing leads to the next thing that leads to the third thing, which is so much fun. I really like Gizmos. I think it's also a little bit underrated maybe. I don't see many people talk about it these days. It came out like I think 2 years ago or something, and I had a lot of fun with it. This actually stayed in my collection. I mean, I have sold a bunch of games in my collection, but this is one that will stay there, because this is one I can grab in a year or whatever, when I can go to some game nights and just play games with people again. Then this is one that I would like to bring, because it's like 40 minutes and we're having a good time, and it's very satisfying with the engine building in this game. So that is Gizmos. Next up here we have another game that I haven't filmed, so Res Arcana. This one is fairly new as well. It's in number 90 here, and it's I think it's the first time it's on the list. Res Arcana is it's from Thomas Lehman, which made the Race for the Galaxy and all those games. And in Res Arcana, you're building a little engine, but it's also a kind of quick game, but it's like you have these resources, as you can see here, these different tokens and different colors. You're basically like trading them back and forth. You're gathering them in order to trigger different actions to get points in the end. But it's a very tight game in a sense. There's just a few, like you have these special abilities, and there's just a few of these. See if we can get to it. Like there's some special cards that you can buy that are really strong. Oh, here we have like the Alchemist Tower. So this costs 3 gold to buy, but then you can like spend. I'm not going to explain all the icons, but it's sort of a you don't get that many points in the game because it's like I think it's first to 11 points as the winner, and it really has a nice feel to it. Like I like the artwork and all that. You have these dragons that can attack the other players and so on. There's a little bit of take that in the game, but I don't mind it in this one. And you can even draw off the cards in the beginning to like build a sort of deck. You have like a deck that I think it's like 7 cards. You have a small deck, and then you play these cards in different ways, and then you shuffle the discard pile, and you can go back and forth. But you don't pick up new cards. It's a bit strange. I remember the first time I played this, I felt like, wow, I didn't get it at first. But once I played it a few times, I really enjoyed it. So Res Arcana is up here. And hey Lance is saying he just got the Wingspan Oceania expansion. So congratulations. I think you will have a lot of fun with that. I will play it at some point as well. Okay, so number 89 is Riverboat. So Riverboat is another Euro, mid-weight Euros. That's a lot of those on this list. And in this one, it's all about farming, but you also have like a dock and a riverboat, or you're building these like riverboats that goes on your dock and they trigger different actions. Now, when you do the farming, it's really interesting because you're like building up these lands. It's sort of a little bit like bingo style game, because as you can see here, you have these kind of different colors on your fields. And then you draw cards, so like you might draw a white card, and then everyone will get to activate their white fields. And there's like phases, so first you like work the fields, and then you plant, and then you harvest, and you go through these different phases. And one thing that is really cool in this game that I haven't seen in that many games either is there's like, to start a year or like a round of the game where you do go through all these phases, someone is going to be the first player. But then someone would start that. But then in the next phase, someone else, depending on which tiles you grab, someone else, or like special actions, will be the first player. So the player order shifts during the round, which is really interesting, and it like balances out. So you might be the first one to sow, but then someone else will be the first one to harvest, and it all has different benefits to it. It's also very interesting that you're not really like, everyone is not scoring the same thing. So you will actually have to place you will do an action to place a little meeple on your different parts, and that's where you score. So as you play the game, you're also determining how you will score in the game. It's really interesting. There's a lot of mechanically interesting design decisions made in Riverboat that I think it's really cool, and it's also very different from a lot of other midweight Euros. So yeah, I like Riverboat a lot. Number 88 is Dale of Merchants, and this is Dale of Merchants 2. I have played the Dale of Merchants collection edition as well, and I don't have any videos for this right now. I have like unboxing videos, but I haven't made any gameplay videos. I really like this one. It's a little small style deck builder is what I would call this. So it's all about like deck building, but it's also interesting because you're not just building up your deck like Dominion style, but you're using the cards in your deck to build like a tableau in front of you, and whoever builds like, I think it's 7 parts of that tableau is the winner. and the different cards have different numbers on them. So like first you need to put down like a 1, and then you need to put down like 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, and you have to get that value. So in order to get like the 6, you might need 2 3s or a 5 and a 1, because there's no single card that has a 6 on it. And when you put them into your display, then you don't have them in your deck anymore, so you can't activate them. And of course the ones with higher values are better to activate as well. So that is really interesting twist to deck building. And there's also, these cards are very different, like this, like families of these different animals or like colors of the cards, and depending on which cards you have in a game, you will get a very different style of game. So when you start a game, you choose or randomize like 4, I think, or like number of players plus 1, different families of cards, and then you mix them together to create a deck that everyone can then buy from a market row, and then you build up your deck and all that. Lance is asking, how old is the oldest game on my list? I don't know. I haven't checked that. I think there's some game from, I would guess 20 years maybe. I would guess maybe around Millennium Shift is like the oldest. I think. I'm not really sure. I don't know. And yeah, John is saying Dale of Merchants does have some really cute artwork. These like animals and all the items, and yeah, it really looks good, and it's very quick and easy to get into. But then there's a lot of interesting combos. There's a lot of, actually, there's one of these families that I really enjoy. I don't remember which one it is, but it sort of activates on some other player's turn. So if you have that card in your hand, you just reveal it to the other players, and then you get to like draw a card on some other player's turn. There's a lot of combo wombo stuff going on here as well. Then at, where are we? I have to check my numbers. So at 87. At 87 we have New Frontiers. Another game I haven't made a video of. I should. I don't know if I'm gonna do it now, because it's like been 2 years since it came out, but I really enjoy this one again. This is Thomas Lehman. So this is like race for the Galaxy or Roll for the Galaxy in a board game, in a sort of bigger board game, as this one is. So the game mechanics are like the Puerto Rico, the Race for the Galaxy mechanics, where you do an action and everybody else gets to follow that action. And you go like everybody does one action in a round, and then you reset, and then you do a new round, and you're trying to build up basically the structure. I really like the structure in this one. You're like building planets, you're like, and then you're going to produce on those planets. You're going to use those productions to either get money or get points. But it's just like the board game, and then you develop the technologies that gives you special abilities as well. So it is Race for the Galaxy, really, the card game. Race for the Galaxy is not on my top 100, actually. It's maybe in top 150 or something, because I do prefer this one a lot more. I actually prefer Roll for the Galaxy more as well, but it's not in the top 100 either. But this one is, I really like this. I'm going to try to show you. So here's like a technology. So you consume the goods, and that gives you points and money and so on. And the tokens and everything in this game, like the actual cardboard, is really nicely made. Really good component quality in this one. Like thick cardboard and big tiles, and these little meeple guys and so on as well. So this is my favorite way to play games from this sort of, it's like a line of games. You have the Jump Drive, and I think it's like 5 games or something in this series. And for me, the New Frontiers is the top of them all here. Really like this one. I think maybe a downside I would say is that I don't know if I want to play this every week, because I feel like it gets a bit samey maybe after a while. But then next up we are still in space. This is another space game. I do like space as a theme a lot. This is Saya and Embers of a Forsaken Star, which is the expansion, so you can play solo, or you can also play with like these neutral NPC ships. And this is my friend Max teaching Draco this one. This is an old video. I think it's almost 3 years or something like that. So I haven't watched it in a long time. And I haven't played the game in a long time either. But it's like sticks in my mind because I had such a good time with it. This is basically a sandbox space game. So you can do a lot of different things. You can like choose if you want to be good or bad, if you want to like rob other players or rob the NPCs, but then you might get the sheriff NPC after you, and if someone else is doing that, you as a player, you can take on the role as a bounty hunter and hunt that player down in order to like get a reward. Or you can just explore space and you can try to find these mines, and or you can just trade goods between different planets, going back and forth with like a cargo ship, and you upgrade your ship. And it's so cool. It's like EVE Online, sort of, the board game. So I have to play this sometime soon. I really like this. It's been way too long since I played it. There's a lot of, I don't know. This kind of game is, I don't think I would play it on more than 2 players though. I played it on 3, and I remember that was very slow. I think I waited like 20 minutes for my turn. I mean, a turn could be 10 minutes. So I don't know if I want to play it on more than 2. Actually, I think the solo might be my favorite mode to play this one, because then you're always active, and then you just have like activations of the different NPCs and the bot, sort of. And I really like how you build up your ship, you put in cargo and cannons and whatnot, and then you can upgrade the ship. And there's a lot of dice rolling, but I don't mind it in this one. It's like an adventure style game for me. So Saya, really good one here. It's been on my list. Oh, there's Draco. It's been on my list for all these years as well, ever since I played it. This video is actually 3 years old, or more than 3 years old. So that's interesting. Then we have a small style card game, but this is my favorite auction game actually. For Sale. For Sale is a just 2 decks of cards really. Very simple, very easy to get into. This video here where I play with Draco and the little penguin is just like basically a demonstration of the game, because it's hard to demonstrate without actually being people playing. It's a little bit like poker actually. So you have just everyone starts with the same amount of cash, and then you bid on these different like cards that represent different kinds of buildings, or I don't know, things. And then you, in the next phase, you're trying to sell them. So you're trying to buy them as cheap as possible, and you do that by sort of this auction where you try to bid over the other players. And if you pass, then you have to take the lowest card, which could be terrible as well. Hey, Twice, it's a nice dice. That was a long name. Yeah, so it's a really fun game, and this is one of those, For Sale is one of those games that I will never sell. I will always have it in my collection because it's so good to bring. I brought this to like an after work with some people that are not gamers at all, and we're drinking wine and so on, and I just pulled this out, and everybody learned how to play it in 5 minutes, and we had a really good time with it. So this really fits that category for me of a play with non-gamers, or even play with gamers, but then you do it as a filler in between some heavier games, and you have this. This is such a good filler. I really like For Sale. So let's get moving on here. What? For Sale got an expansion? I haven't seen that. That sounds weird though, because it's so fast. I don't know if I want an expansion. Okay, so next up here, another one. Like, there's a bunch of games here that I haven't made videos for. I made 1,000 videos on YouTube, and I think I covered like 200 different games in those videos or something like that. More than 200 probably. But Inish, I haven't made a video for Inish. Inish is a area control game, which I usually don't like. I mean, I usually don't like. This is like one of my exception games. I think most people have that. Like, you have some kind of games you really like, some type of games, which you've seen Riverboat and all these like midweight Euros, right? But then I also have these. This is one of my exception games, like Dudes on a Map, which is something I usually don't go for. But this game is just so lovely. Like, just look at that map. It's so amazing how they do that puzzle map. You draft cards. It's a drafting game, which is something I do like. 7 Wonders draft, basically. Has a little twist in this one actually, because in this one you start with I don't remember if it's like 5 cards maybe, or 6. You start with a hand of cards, you choose one to keep, you pass the other ones to the player to your left or right. But then when you get more of them, you can actually choose to take another one and just pass the one that you already had. So that's different from like 7 Wonders and so on, or Hadara, or a lot of other drafting games. And then the dudes on the map are fighting, but it's not just about fighting, it's also about building these temples and so on. And there's a few different win conditions, which is something I really liked in this one. So I had some really, really good game experience in this one. Oh, hey, the Dice Tower is saying, hey, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Uh, Love having you in the chat. Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting ways to win in this game. Like, and you can have like two different win conditions going at the same time. And it's a bit of the reason I had such a good experiences in this game is because I had these exciting moments when I have a win condition cleared, but I just have to like wait until the round ends and nobody realizes that I have the win condition because then I can cash it in and then someone sees it and it's like, oh, we gotta stop Joseph, he's about to win, and then they all go against you. So Inish is so good. And speaking of those cards that you draft, it's not just these normal cards. Let's see if I can get a picture here. Yeah, here we go. It's like tarot size cards, really huge cards with this lovely artwork, really nice artwork on them, and I love it. Such a good production. Really enjoy Inish. Then next up we have another exception to my rule. Here we have Rising Sun. So Rising Sun is also dudes on a map, but it's not just any dudes. It's extremely nice miniatures. It's such a good miniatures from Simon, of course. And it's, you know, a whole this Japanese theme, which I do like a lot. Wow, this game is so cool, but it's a huge game. There you see the huge monsters as well. Some really nasty monsters in this one. And I don't really get to play this that often. I don't own it. I have a friend who owns it though. And we played it a bunch when it came out, but I haven't played it in a while. And it takes some time. And I mean, it's one of those games where you should play it a lot to really, you know, get the best out of it. Because you will end up in situations where there's a bunch of these cards that you could get. And they're out there on the table. It's like someone picked it up and they have an asymmetrical power. And you need to keep track of who has what power and what can they do and how can they move and what... It can get really tricky. But it's something I really like in this game is that there's alliances and you can sort of backstab each other, but it's a part of the game. It's not just a... I mean, in some other games, like Game of Thrones, the board game, which is not in my top 100, I like that game in a sense, but I don't like that you sort of backstab people outside the game. I don't know how to explain this. Like, if you're just... Like, you make an alliance across the table, right? You think, okay, let's stick together. We're gonna attack this guy over here. But then you might break that alliance. In Rising Sun, to break the alliance, there's actually a phase in the game that is making alliances. And then to do it, you choose an action tile, and that's when you break the alliance, and that gets you negative points. So I really like how they implemented the whole alliance part of the game in the actual rules of the game. And it's really interesting. It also has this... Like New Frontiers, like Race for the Galaxy, it has this like Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a game that I mentioned a lot in this video, but Puerto Rico is nowhere near my top 100. I don't like the game that much at all, but I like the mechanic in it, and it has the same thing here. I choose an action on my turn. Everybody else gets to also do that action in a weaker way, but my ally will get to do the action in the same strong way as I'm doing. So that is a really cool way of choosing actions in the game. As you see here, the cards on the side, you can get so many different cards that have special abilities, and so when you do a certain thing, you get a certain benefit and so on. Yeah, Rising Sun is really, really cool, and I think, you know, if someone just said like, oh, do you want to play, you know, if the world was normal and someone said, do you want to play Rising Sun tomorrow, I would say absolutely yes, because I would like to play it. It's been a while, so... And that's also like, when I haven't talked about it, when I made this list, that was like one of the things I was thinking about. Like, if someone asked me to play this game, would I say yes? If I did, then it gonna come on the top 100 list. Next up, we have another midweight Euro. This one is... I haven't made a video for it. It's an older Stein game from Uwe Rosenberg. It's the first Uwe Rosenberg on the list, not the last one though. Glass Road. This has gone down for me though. I played it like, I don't know, maybe a year ago or less than a year ago, and I didn't really have a good time when I played it then, but I do like it. It's just that it's so agonizing, this game. You have this wheel with like resources on it, so if you spend a certain resource, like if you spend sand and coal or whatever it is, then you get glass. And it's like this wheel moves, so it indicates how much you have of a certain thing, and my brain just has sometimes I need to be in the right mood to play this game, because it's tough for my brain to wrap my head around. Okay, so if I spend this thing here, then that will move and that will get me the other resource. And then what I really like about the game, though, is again like a common theme in all of these games. When I talk about games today, and I say like, oh, I really like this part of the game, it's often card play, it's often hand management, and the same goes in this game, because you have like everybody has a deck of cards and the same card in the deck, and then you choose, I think it's 5 cards that you choose for each round. So you might get the clay guy who goes and get you clay, or the fisherman who gets you fish. And then you take turns, like on your turn, I choose to play one of these cards, but if you also have that card in your hand, if you have chosen that, then you also get to be in on that action, and then you sort of weaken my action. So instead of me doing 2 different things, I will do one of those things, and you get to do one of those things. So it's a lot about like trying to predict what your opponent will choose for card for each round. And I might see that, you know, you're over there, and I see that you really need to get some coal. So I think, oh, you're probably going to do the coal guy that goes and gets you coal. So I'll put that in my hand, because then I can mess with you and I can also get something done. So you have these cards. I think you have 5 cards. You only play 3 each round. But if you're lucky, you can get to activate the other 2 as well. So that card play is what makes this game really good for me. I mean, that's where it really shines. These like building tiles on a board and get like different special effects and build up, and there's a lot of games that is doing the same thing, but the card play is very unique, and so is the resource wheel as well. I don't think I've seen that in any other game. Yeah, Mikael is also saying that he's lousy. I mean, I'm there with you. I'm really bad at this game, but I enjoy it. Lance is asking if Underwater City is in my top 100. I will tell you, yes, it is in my top 100, but it's I'm not gonna say where. But it's gonna take a while before it shows up. It's pretty high up on the list. Oh, is my audio getting weird? That's strange. I don't know why it would do that. Yeah. Alright, well, we only have one more game to go on this list. So my number 81, which is the last of this list today, is another game that I haven't made a video for. It's Whitehall Mystery. This is a hidden movement game. It's a very small style game, quick to play and so on, but it really got stuck in my heart and my mind. I had such a good time with this game. Especially, I do especially like to be Jack the Ripper, be the bad guy, and I move around hiddenly behind my screen, and these detectives are trying to hunt me down before It's really strange thematically. I don't know why Jack the Ripper wants to go around placing body parts in different parts of London. It's really morbid, but that's what he's doing, and he needs to place like 4 of these, and it's basically he needs to decide from the start. You decide, okay, I'm gonna go, and it's like a sector, so you have to go to all different sectors on the map, and you know the detectives. It's 1 versus 4 if you're playing the full game. The detectives are trying to just hunt you down, and they're doing that by deducing where you've been and where you could have gone. So I like that part of the game as well. I like being on that side, because it's interesting to try to figure out where could the bad guy be. But I really like this, like sneaking around and staying away from the hunters. Yeah, I really like it. I really like Fury of Dracula as well, which is basically the same thing but in a larger scale. But that one is not in the top 100. It's in like 170 or something. But you know, I played over 500 games by now. So a game not being in my top 100 doesn't mean that I don't like it, obviously. But in Fury of Dracula, the downside is that it takes like the whole night, the whole evening. So it's hard to get to the table. So Whitehall is like I get a little bit of the same feeling as I get in Fury of Dracula, or in other hidden movement games, but it's done in such a quick manners, and you can actually get it played, which is it's a good thing for a board game as well, when it's not just on your shelf. A lot of this top 100 list, a lot of when I talk about games, it's actually memories. It's like memories of playing them, because obviously this year especially, I haven't played that many games with my friends. So I mean, it's just this board, these pawns, and this hidden map that you have here. So on the map, when you play Jack the Ripper, you can see the small version of the map. So oh yeah, Letters to Whitechapel I haven't played, but I from what I understand, it's very similar, right? I'm not really sure what the difference is between Letters of Whitechapel and Whitehall. Right, so Mikael is saying that there's lots of great games so far. Oracle, Trajan, Crusade, Res Arcana, and Glass Road. Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot more later on that I will agree with you on. I think actually that the first part here, or maybe the second part as well, like the first 20-40 games on the list might be games that people won't agree with as much. But then when we get down to, I'm pretty mainstream in my taste of games. I can admit that. So when we get down to like the top 50, there's going to be a lot of games that you recognize and that a lot of people love. I have a few in there that are a bit special though. I have some games that not that many people talk that much about as well. And there's some new games in there since last year, and there's some new games that was released as well. Like I think it's 13 new games on the list in total, something like that. So I do have some rotation in my top 100, and I call it top 100 games of all time. But you know, in some ways, it is top 100 games of all time right now. When I start thinking about it. So of course, there's some games that are maybe in my top 200. You know, I don't know, 180 or whatever. It could be a game that I really, really loved a few years ago, but then you know, it's for some reason it has dropped down. Again, that doesn't mean that game is bad. I think we have some examples. I'm just looking at my list real quick here. So number 160 is No Thanks, which is an awesome little card game, but it's just not enough to make it into the absolute top here. So that is the first part, the first 21s. Oh, I want to try Tekenu. That sounds cool. So I'll be back in a week. Now I was planning to do this on the weekend actually, but this weekend I'm fully booked with all these like werewolf games and Two Rooms and a Boom and all that games I'm gonna play on Zoom. So I had to put it in here on the Thursday. But next weekend I will do it on Saturday. I'll try to do Saturdays. It's gonna be 4 more episodes. In the last episode I will be joined by 2 friends on Zoom. So we will be 3 guys talking about 20 games each. So that's gonna be a longer stream. But I think I think I got to talk. I think this was a good time to talk about like the time frame for each game. To be honest, I could be sitting here all night and just talk about these games because I love talking about games that I like. But I'm trying to keep it sort of speedy. And if you have any questions, you know, just ask me in the chat. Saboteur is a fun game. That's a game that I discovered on Board Game Arena. So I haven't played that in physical form, but I played it a bunch on Board Game Arena. I really liked it. It's like a social deduction game in 20 minutes. And also, if you're watching this afterwards and you have some questions or comments to my picks, tell me in the comment section down here, you know. Always appreciate that. I appreciate if you like the video, you know, for YouTube algorithms. I appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. It's always good to build the base of subscribers. Always appreciate that. And I'm very thankful for all the support that you guys give for the channel. So I think Draco is ready to wave goodbye and say thank you so much for watching. See you in a week or so. There's a lot of other videos coming, of course. During this week, there will be a first impressions vlog where I talk about 7 games that I played recently, that I will talk about my first impressions of those games. So that's coming here in a few days as well. I hope you will enjoy it. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening or morning or whenever you're watching. Take care. Bye-bye.